Hello there my music lovers, I'm George from Audiophile Heaven and today we are having a look at NextDrive Spectra X2. This is the second version of the NextDrive Spectra X. This is a DAC amp that I really loved, and it has been like about 2 to 3 years since I reviewed the original, so the company name seems to have changed. They are no more the NextDrive and now they are named Maktar. They actually made this only compatible with iPhones and iPads and Apple stuff. It is not available in Type-C anymore, or at least that seems to be true as far as I could find at the moment of making this video review. So if you have iPhone, if you have Apple, if you love Apple, if you enjoy Apple, you need good audio, because Apple does not have any audio. Usually they don't really have 3.5mm outputs. The original NextDrive Spectra X was incredibly dynamic, detailed, clear, punchy, and the original could actually beat the VOQ5 at the moment, and that was quite a feat for it. It relies on an ASS Sabre 9118, that is a pretty high-end DAC for such a tiny thing. It can decode high-resolution files with 32 bits up to 384 kilohertz, and yeah, that is more than you probably have in your computer. It is more than I have. I don't really have files that have that resolution. Most of my files are still in red book in CD quality. The presentation is pretty cool, I would say. It is a pretty simple thing. It is just a little wand with a little cable, that is all. So you actually unbox it like this. You pull it out like that, and here's the Spectra X2. I should probably stop calling it the NextDrive Spectra X2 because it is the Maktar Spectra X2. Yeah, that will never feel as good as calling it NextDrive. I was actually quite attached to the name, and calling it Maktar is pretty weird to me. Besides the DAC/headphone amp, you get a little pouch, and this is pretty cool. It is kinda cute to have this tiny pouch. As you can see, it is not practical for anything. It doesn't really do anything besides hold the thing while not using it, and you kinda put it in the pouch and you have it here, and that is all it does. It cannot be used while using it, but the whole point of having this is the sound. And the sound is actually as amazing as I was remembering it. Yeah guys, it is still there, that sound. It is so dynamic, punchy, detailed, clear, everything is there. It has a beautiful sound, and I was not expecting to be saying this, but it can make an iPhone sound amazing. It can make it match VOQ5S at this moment. And yeah, the guys at Maktar managed to hold things up, and the company name is pretty poor. I cannot call them Maktar. They still have written on the back that they are designed by NextDrive, so I guess that the two companies still are a thing, so I will continue call it NextDrive. Just bear with me, I can't call it Maktar. It just doesn't feel right to my heart. The Spectra X2 has only one output in the 3.5mm format. It has this shape where it is a wand with a cable. It has a textile material above the cable, and the cable is ended in the lightning port. It is basically a very basic device. It drains some power of your iPhone or of your iPad, but not enough to make itself noticed. It can drive most IEMs and some dynamic headphones, but it is not a very good match for planar headphones. So for example, HiFiMan Sundara, HiFiMan Deva, Sigma P2 will all be a no-go. They shouldn't be matched with the NextDrive Spectra X2. It is not great if you have a very low CPL and a low impedance, like most planar magnetic headphones do. I would also recommend pairing it with IEMs, for example, for your A9 or iBasso ITO7 or Unique Melody 3D. Every one of those sounds good out of the NextDrive Spectra X2. It has a slight hint of hissing in the background. It is there, it is not that noticeable, but it is there, it exists, and yeah, you will notice it if you are really listening for it, but it never is as loud as your listening level, even if you listen pretty quietly. It doesn't have any weird problems being made for iPhone and for iPad. It just connects to them. It doesn't work with anything else because nothing else has this lightning port. So yeah, good luck connecting it to an Android smartphone. And I am really hoping they will be releasing a version for Android, because there is where I'll have more to say, because I can do more tests. I was only able to borrow a smartphone from a friend to do the test because I don't really have Apple. I am not a big fan of them. They have a pretty odd way of handling music collections, and most of them do not have a micro SD slot, so most of their devices are a no-go for me. I'm sorry for that. Apple is not my favorite. On the other hand, I do love smartphones, I do love Android, I do love Windows. It is easier for me to work on those platforms because yeah, Romania is not a very rich country and I just grew used to them. The NextDrive Spectra X2 has a little LED light here, which will light when it is turned on. I'm actually pretty sure that it is safer to use it, and in the long run it will survive more than most USB DAC/headphone amplifiers, because having just one connector and this port, you are very unlikely to break it, and that's a big thing, because for example it will make good competition for the Audirect Beam 2S and Audirect Beam 2. The Beam 2 is a bit warmer in sound, the NextDrive Spectra X is more linear, more neutral, but at the same time it has a wider soundstage and more impact. The Audirect Beam 2 and the Audirect Beam 2S tends to have a slightly better driving power, while the Spectra X2 tends to be a bit better for dynamics and for EMs. This one is pretty much king for EMs and for dynamics, and everything else is better for planars. It is a pretty poor DAC/headphone amp for planar magnetic headphones. I actually consider that the Lotto Poise one is a bit more versatile because it has EQ options, but this one tends to have a slightly better overall dynamic. If I would give the thumbs up to the Lotto Poise one for driving power and also for a punchy sound, the dynamics are actually better on the Spectra X2. After noticing their initial release and noticing that they are still doing a good job with the Spectra X2, I can't wait to hear the Type-C version and recommend that to you. But until then, if you have an iPhone, if you have an iPad, if you have an iDevice, and if you want to make the most out of it, I totally recommend the NextDrive Spectra X2. I also totally recommend you to subscribe to Audiophile Heaven if you enjoyed this video, if you want more awesome content, if you want to be there for me and to support me. I also really would appreciate if you could leave a like on this video. I really appreciate every single like. I hope you have a lovely week in there, and we'll see each other really soon. Bye bye.